The Rizzard of O's.
Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of the Rizzard of Oz. Today, we're veering off from what we normally do, and my kids are addressing natural disasters here in Kansas. Enjoy.
Hey, it's Tyler. I interviewed Jay, who is a paramedic and also works for some organization in Kansas that helps people during natural disasters.
This is Jay.
Yep. You hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So, my mom told me that you work for something that has to do with Kansas. Response to natural disaster, something like that. What exactly do you do? Because my mom didn't tell me exactly.
Well, I mean, my full-time job, I'm a paramedic.
You're a paramedic.
But
okay.
So Kansas Task Force is made up of people that work for different departments around the whole state. And basically,
okay.
you're working for your full-time department unless there's a natural disaster or something that we would join together and go and, everybody's got their different specialties. Like, so for instance, I'm a medical specialist, so I would handle all the medical side of things for the responders mainly. Mm-hmm. So the guys, if they get injured or hurt or sick, I would mainly be there for them initially, but then also for any victims that we would find. So it is. So basically, it's people from all different departments all across the state, but they each have their different specialties. Some do search and rescue, which we're kind of assigned to that. Some do like swift water rescuing. Okay. Some do hazmat. So there's different specialties, and we each have specific training that we have to meet and requirements that we have to meet in order to be able to, number one, be on the task force, and number two, be able to be deployed. So in addition to my training that I received as a paramedic, I had to go and do it was like a week-long course that this group that is authorized by FEMA to conduct it. They're the only training group that can conduct this FEMA certified training to be a medical specialist. So you have to. They have different scenarios. It's classroom based, but they teach us a lot more specialty skills working in closed, tight environments, confined space. So they have different props, different like training exercises where we would be like we were crawling through tunnels and crawling through rubber piles, and they would have simulated victims that we would treat in different scenarios of different situations that we would have to be expected to know how to do. We had to learn how to amputate an arm or leg. They had pig parks, and then they actually had human cadavers, arms and legs that we could practice doing amputations on. Then they like doing a crike on the throat, like a surgical airway in somebody's throat. They had pig parts that we practice on doing that. Different trauma injuries that you would encounter, putting on tourniquets, bandaging, stopping bleeds, that sort of thing. Okay. And then also, in addition to that, we are expected to be able to treat dogs, the canines, the search and rescue canines. Really? So we kind of have to act. We have to know how to treat dogs. We have to know the vital signs of what to expect for dogs. How to start an IV on a dog, how to give it fluid, how to give it medications, how to splint or bandage a leg or arm, how to do CPR on a dog.
I didn't even know that was a thing, CPR on a dog.
Huh?
I didn't even know you could do CPR on a dog.
Yeah. Yep. You can. But yeah, so there's a lot of additional training. Kansas actually has a training grounds outside of Salina.
Mm-hmm.
It was built originally by the National Guard, but the state uses it for search and rescue exercises.
Okay.
We go out there once or twice a year. They have, like I said, they have different props. They have school buses turned over. They have big piles of rubble. They have planes out there and trains that you can use. They have different like Connex boxes that they've created little, that you can use to set up different different training exercises. Yeah. But yeah, it's an awesome place that's funded by the state, and it's it's available all year round, as long as there's not another training exercise going on there. But like we just had, so I went out last year. We put on that FEMA training to train new medical specialists.
Yeah.
And I was actually a trainer. Since I'd already gone through the training, I was one of the instructors for that course. So we had about 30 students that we put through the training to get them certified. So I got to kind of see the other side of it, where I helped. I was one of the instructors and kind of helped teach other people how to some of the different techniques and skills. So and then in September, went for Hurricane Helene.
Mm-hmm.
And then we met that group because they went down to Florida originally for Hurricane Helene, and then they got assigned to go up to North Carolina and deal with all the flooding and destruction up there. And then we met. So that group, usually you're gone for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that group was kind of at its end of 2 weeks, and then we met them in Chattanooga, Tennessee, got some of their equipment, and then we went down to Florida for anticipation of Hurricane Milton.
Okay.
And so they had a big FEMA ground set up down there as a staging area, what they call it. So there was responders from all over the country that had all their trucks and equipment and all that stuff, and were kind of at this, I think it was like a fairgrounds, and they had a big mess hall set up for food. They have showers, bathrooms.
Oh wow!
And then we were sleeping in little campers, but they called them pods because it was, each camper had multiple different bunks that basically was just big enough for you to sleep, just like a half of a bunk bed is all you had.
Oh wow! You
walked in there, you could stand up, but then you only had about probably about a 10-foot square area or less, maybe 6 foot, and then a bed to sleep in. So we waited there until the hurricane was supposed to hit, and then we all got a mission to go down to the Tampa Bay area.
Oh wow!
And so we went down there and helped out, did a few missions, but the hurricane wasn't as bad as they thought. They originally thought the storm surge was going to be really devastating, and all the water was going to push inland.
Yeah.
But the hurricane didn't exactly hit the way they thought that it was, so there wasn't as much damage.
That's a good thing.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was some other flooding in kind of inland areas around the rivers and stuff that we went and kind of helped out with that.
The Great Flood of 1993 occurred along the Mississippi and Missouri rivers and their tributaries from April to October. This was one of the most damaging and costly floods to have occurred in the U.S., with 50 dead and costing billions of dollars in damages. The flood was caused by extreme weather conditions and wet soil conditions. The Midwest took several years to recover from this flood, with some areas that were more highly affected taking longer. This flood caused over $47 million in damages to roads and buildings and over $400 million in damage to crops, and in total costed about $12 to $16 billion in total damages, which is equal to about 23 to 30 billion in 2023. It covered 400,000 square miles over the 9 states it hit and totaled 30,000 of those square miles. Approximately 50,000 homes were destroyed. When I was looking for eyewitness accounts and people who were interviewed that were in this flood, here are some of the quotes that I got from that. Quote, "Probably 15 to 20% of our population was out of work," said Margario, an eyewitness who lived through this flood. "We had a number of residents who used John boats to get to their jobs. They'd launch them from Hardin, get across into Greene County, and go on to work from there." Unquote. "So many families were affected that summer. I still think about that," reflected Margario. "I remember how families were torn apart when people had to travel so far for work and stay out of their county. There was so much stress with the flood. So much goes into a situation like that, and it lasted so long, not just a few weeks, but up into fall. It was just so hard on everyone."
There was nothing. There were houses destroyed, no trees, so you could see from one end of town to the other. That's how people knew where to go, because they saw all the emergency lights, so everyone just started congregating towards the middle of town. Hi, I'm Alessandro, and what I just said was a quote from one of the former residents from Greensburg, Kansas. On May 4th, 2007, a huge Ep5 hit Greensburg, Kansas. It was the first tornado to ever be rated an Ep5 on the enhanced Fujita scale, and it spun 205 miles per hour, and 11 people died during the tornado, also destroying most of the community. One of the residents in Greensburg said everything looked like trash, like the residents' houses and property. Another quote from one of the weather reporters was, "For a whole 65 minutes, that tornado was on the ground, covering 28 miles. Even after 5 years, you could still see bare foundations of houses that were destroyed and never rebuilt. A lot of the town has permanently changed, like where high schools once stood. There are now new and inviting homes because of the tornado." And that would conclude my story about the tornado that hit Greensburg, Kansas.
The Rizzard of Oz.